Hey everybody, it's Rob here at etrailer.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the CURT Class 2 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2019 Mazda CX-5. Now I know everybody wants to see what it's going to look like on their vehicle, go over some of the features, but if you do stick around to the end of the video, we are going to go over the installation process so you can have the confidence to do it at home. But our CURT hitch is a Class 2, so it's going to give us that 1¼ by 1¼ receiver tube opening. And as you can see, it has a really clean look on the car. We don't have a big bar sticking underneath, and that's because the cross tube is going to be hidden behind the bumper, and the only thing we are going to see is that receiver tube sticking out. Now, since it is a Class 2, it does have a somewhat smaller receiver tube, so it has a smaller footprint, and again, it's a little bit less conspicuous than the larger hitches on there. Now, usually when people think of a trailer hitch, they automatically think of pulling a trailer. And you absolutely can. You can put a ball mount in there and easily tow a trailer with your CX-5. But our CURT hitch here is also going to be really good for bike racks, so we can hit the trail with some friends, or possibly putting a cargo carrier back here so we can make a little bit more room on the inside. But regardless of what you're going to be using your hitch for exactly, all of your accessories are going to mount to the hitch pin hole here on the side. Now the hitch is going to accept a standard 1/2" pin and clip. Now they're not going to come with the hitch, but you can find a wide variety of locking hitch pins as well as anti-rattle devices to keep all your accessories secure inside your receiver tube and make sure it cuts down on that annoying rattling sound. Now if you do plan on doing some light duty towing, maybe you have a small utility trailer, maybe you're just taking a jet ski down to the lake for the weekend. Regardless, our hitch does have a specific ball mount that is designed for our hitch. Now that is going to be sold separately, but you can find it here at etrailer.com. Now, as well as the ball mount, whenever you're towing a trailer, you have to have a spot to hook up your safety chains. And on our hitch, we have a loop style welded to the bottom of the receiver tube. We got a decent amount of room on there with what I consider most normal size hooks. Got plenty of room to get them hooked on, take them off. And even if you have some really large oversized hooks, we still have plenty of room to get them hooked on, and we really shouldn't have to worry about any kind of interference from our pin and clip or any kind of potential from hitting the bottom of our Mazda. Now weight capacity is pretty important because if you're looking for a hitch for your Mazda, you want to make sure that it's going to be up to the task that you've put it to. So our hitch is going to have a 350-pound tongue weight. That's the maximum downward pressure at the end of the receiver tube. And to put that in perspective, you'll be able to carry 2-3 bikes with you on a bike rack, or really be able to get a good amount of gear on some of those cargo carriers. Now our hitch is also going to have a 3,500-pound gross trailer rating. That's how much the hitch can pull, but that does include the weight of the trailer and the load that we have on it. Now I do always urge everyone to double check their CX-5's owner's manual, because those are the ratings for our hitch, and we don't want to exceed the manufacturer's rating for our CX-5. I like to give it a few measurements, and these are going to help you whenever you're looking for accessories for your new hitch, like a bike rack or a cargo carrier. If we measure from the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be right about 13 inches. Now you can see that's pretty close to the ground, so I would recommend a bike rack or a cargo carrier with a raised shank. That way we get a little bit more ground clearance out of it. Now from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper, it's going to be right about 4 inches. Now that measurement is going to help when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you can put them in the upright stored position and not make contact with the rear bumper. But now that we've gone over the features and seen what our hitch looks like, let's go ahead and bring our Mazda in the shop and we'll go through the installation process together. To begin our installation, we want to come to the back of our CX-5, and if we come to the center, very bottom of the fascia, we're going to have this plastic panel. And we're going to pull that out. It's being held in on each end by a push pin. And you want to grab a flat blade screwdriver. You'll see there's a little notch on each end of the push pin. Take our screwdriver, pry out on the center section first. That'll release the tension, then we can pull the rest of the push pin out. It's going to work the same way for the one on the other side. And after we have that one pulled out, kind of just work that panel down. It is kind of hooked on there. Now if you're having trouble getting the panel to come down and won't release, if you move towards the center from where those fasteners were, you'll notice that we got that little notch in there. There's a small tab. You're going to take your screwdriver, push it towards the back. That'll release it. We're also going to have another one on the other side. So again, just kind of release that tab. We can pull that panel down and we'll set this aside. So we move underneath our Mazda now. We're going to move to the driver's side frame rail. Now if we look up right by our tailpipe, we're going to see that we have a wiring harness that's actually clipped to the side of the frame here. We need to loosen this up so we have a little bit more room to work with and our hitch isn't going to interfere. So again, flat blade screwdriver, trim panel tool. I want to pop that clip out of the side of the frame so the wiring will have a little bit more slack in it. Sometimes they can be stubborn, but we just want to pry that clip off. And then we're going to move forward following the wire, and we'll have another one that's going to be attached to the bottom of the body here. Now we want to pull that one out too, so we have plenty of slack for our wiring to move out of the way. And I'll just push it out of the way for now. Now staying on that driver's side frame rail, if we come on the very side of the frame, we're actually going to have a few stickers that are covering up our mounting holes. The furthest forward one is going to be on the very side, and it's going to be right by this body mount. And then if we move towards the back of the bumper, we'll find this large hole in the bottom of the frame. Right on the side of that, there's going to be another sticker covering up a hole. Those two holes in the side are going to be our mounting locations. So we want to remove the tape that's covering up those holes. And you can typically use a razor knife, flat blade screwdriver, anything that's got somewhat of a flat, sharp edge on it just to get it started. Then we can remove the rest of the tape and expose the hole. Now we're going to have the same locations of holes on the other side, so we want to move to the passenger side and remove the tape over there as well, and go ahead and pull the wiring loose if there's wiring over there too. Now you'll notice that on each one of our frame rails, the forward attachment point towards the front of our CX-5 is threaded, but both the rear mounting holes are not threaded. There's no nut inside, it's just an open hole. So we're going to need to get some hardware in place. So we're going to grab our pull wire out of our kit. We're going to take the coiled end. We'll feed it in through that rear mounting hole. And we actually want to come straight down to that large hole that's at the bottom of the frame. Now you want to make sure that the coiled end as well as the tail end are both sticking out of the frame. We're going to take a square hole spacer block, slide it over the end of the wire, and we'll thread a carriage bolt onto the end of the coil. And you want to push each piece into the frame. We're going to pull in that pull wire so we can make sure that that bolt comes all the way through the frame and sticks out. And at this point you want to leave your pull wire attached. I'm just going to push it just inside the frame to where we can actually get our hitch against the frame so it's not interfering. And again, this is going to be the same combination of hardware on the other side of the frame, so we'll go ahead and get that bolt in place as well. Our next step is going to be lowering our exhaust. Now I recommend putting up some kind of support device. I'm going to be using a strap, just finding a solid point on the vehicle. Then I'm going to tighten it up to where there's just a little bit of support under the exhaust so that we can kind of allow it to come down at a controlled rate. But if we come back to the muffler on each end, one directly behind it and then one going towards the front, we'll have two rubber isolators on each side. This is how we're going to lower it down, and the main goal here is to slide that rubber isolator off the muffler. Just going to take some spray lubricant. I'm going to spray down the hangers and isolators. And then I'm going to take a pry bar, and I'm just going to use the muffler or whatever I can to pry against, and hopefully start sliding that isolator off of the hanger. It can be a little bit challenging to find something to pry against, but again, just want that isolator to come off the muffler. Let's repeat that for all the isolators holding the exhaust up. And we can always come back to the strap and slowly lower it down. So we have plenty of room and a little bit of wiggle room at the same time, so we can still kind of pull down the exhaust, pull out on the fascia to get everything in place. Now if we come to our hitch and we come to the side here, on the side plates we're going to have two large, somewhat oval holes. Those are going to be our mounting locations. And we actually need to get a flat washer in place in between the hitch and the frame. Now it's going to be very difficult to try to hold the hitch up, get your hardware in, and then also slide this in place. So what I like to do is I'm just going to take a piece of tape, and to make it a little bit easier on myself, I'm just going to tape the washer to the inside of the hitch. You just want to make sure you don't cover up the hole so that the bolt can go through. Just throw a little bit of tape on there, and it really doesn't need to be perfectly in line. A little bit of movement's okay. We just needed the tape there just to hold it in place long enough for the bolt to go through. Now each one of the mounting locations is going to get one of these flat washers. So you want to go through, put a piece of tape and a washer on each of the side plates on both sides. Now I recommend getting an extra set of hands at this point. We're going to lift our hitch over our exhaust. We're going to take our pull wires and go from the inside, going through the hitch, going out. And again, you want to be mindful of that wiring, but we're going to lift our hitch up. You may have to pull out just a little bit on the corner of the fascia there. We're going to lift it up, push it up. We're going to get our hitch lined up, and we want to get the bolts out from the side of the frame. That'll help hang the hitch so we can get the hardware in place. Once you have it through, you should be able to let go. We want to pull the pull wire off. And then for our carriage bolts, we're going to grab a flange nut and want to at least get it loosely hand tight on each side. Then we can work on getting the rest of the hardware in place. For the forward attachment hole, we want to grab one of the new bolts out of our kit. We're going to follow it up with a conical tooth washer. We want to make sure the teeth are pointing towards the hitch. And that's going to thread right into the weld nut that's on the inside of the frame. And if you have your rear bolts in place, the forward one should line up pretty easily. We'll just thread that in, do the same thing on the other side. Now once you have all your hardware in place, you can grab a 19mm socket and tighten it all up. Now you want to make sure you come back with a torque wrench and torque all the hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. Make sure you go back and repeat that for all your remaining hardware. So we can go ahead and raise our exhaust back up. I like to spray down the hangers and the isolators with a little bit more lubricant. It makes it a little bit easier to slide on. And another trick is if we get one side on first rather than trying to go front to back, we can actually slide the exhaust pretty far to one side. And that'll allow us to get us a little bit more room so we can get the other side in place. It can get a little bit tight trying to get that last one in place. So doing one side at a time definitely makes it a little bit easier. So we can remove that support strap from earlier, and you do want to at least try to get your wiring clip back in place. And if you can't get the side clip back in, what you can do is you can actually take the included zip ties that are in your kit And we can actually zip tie it right to the hanger up high, so it will be protected from the exhaust, but our hitch is covering up the hole for our other clip here. Now you do just want to try to stay away from the actual exhaust itself. That's why I'm trying to go on the upper part of the hanger. And again, trying to keep it as far away as I can. We can come back, tie the other side, and cut the tails off our zip ties. But once you have all your fasteners back in place and the exhaust is back up, that'll finish up your installation and your look at the CURT 1¼ receiver tube trailer hitch on our 2019 Mazda CX-5.